And finally, problem solving. This is a section on problem solving or goal achieving. Now, I get this information from Napoleon Hill. I spent quite a bit of class time talking about Napoleon Hill. So if you've missed this class, you've missed quite a bit. But I'm going to summarize this up in a few minutes in this little problem-solving method aspects. Problem solving, talking about the SODASE method, S-O-D-A-S-E, with so it's SODASE, an acronym for the problem-solving method that I want to talk about. The first step in this is to identify what is the situation or the goal. Really, what is the situation you are really truly trying to resolve, or the goal that you are trying to achieve. In classroom, when we talked about goals, we spent all of 45 minutes to an hour talking about goals. Napoleon Hill identified, and if you missed class, you might want to get with somebody with the lecture notes. Napoleon Hill identified that this was the most difficult aspect of problem solving, that this took the most time. Literally, where we spent 45 minutes to an hour on it, these wealthy, successful individuals, this was weeks to work on. What is really truly the situation that you want to resolve, or the goal that you want to achieve? If you're mad at your spouse because your spouse won't put the cap back on the toothpaste, or can't hit the dirty clothes hamper with their underwear, that's probably not why you're mad at your spouse. There's some underlying issues there. In your goal, to make your goal clear, to make your goal measurable, to make your goal achievable, to make your goal believable, to really write it out, making it very, very specific. And this is a written problem-solving method. That it doesn't count just doing it in your head. It has to be written out. The next one is, what are all of the options that you have of achieving your goal? That what are all the possible different ways, different things that you could do in order to resolve that situation or to achieve that goal? One of the aspects that Napoleon Hill identified was that all of those wealthy, successful people that he interviewed came up with 20 viable options, 20 ways to achieve their goal. Said that anybody can come up with 5 different ways to achieve their goal. Most people could come up with 10 different ways of achieving their goal. A good manager could come up with 15. But what separated out those wealthy, successful individuals was those last 5 options, those options that other people didn't think about. And the next 2, they go hand in hand. What are all the advantages and disadvantages of each option? And again, this is in writing. Have 20 sheets of paper out there. On the top of each sheet of paper is your goal written out clearly, very, very specific. And underneath the goal on each sheet of paper is an option. Then that paper divided into 2 columns. On one column is all the advantages, on the other column is all the disadvantages. And not making any decision until all of the advantages and disadvantages for each option are identified. And again, this is a written process. Now, this takes a lot of paperwork, but these people became incredibly wealthy, and it takes a lot of thinking. And the next one is, once you have those advantages and disadvantages written out, to finally choose an option. Choose a solution that will get you to your goal. And as you start pursuing the solution, always be ready to evaluate. Because, life changes. If you evaluate that this solution isn't working for me, well, you know what? There's 19 other choices that you have. You've already planned these things out. 19 other choices. In his memoir, Napoleon Hill tells a wonderful little story about eavesdropping on a young couple. They were in San Francisco. He was at a little coffee shop, and he was eavesdropping on this couple, and this couple were whining and complaining to each other that they couldn't find a job. And if they couldn't find a job soon, they were going to have to move back to Mommy and Daddy's house somewhere in the Midwest. And they really didn't want to do that. Napoleon Hill said in his memoir that he pulled out his yellow legal pad that he always carries with him, wrote their goal across the top of the sheet of paper to live in San Francisco. In a matter of minutes, filled out 20 things they could have done in order to earn a living working in San Francisco, and it was 20 things that neither of them had thought about. And Napoleon Hill brings up this example to show that we're not taught how to think, that we think in language, and this is a written process to actually sit down and think about this stuff. So this is Napoleon Hill's problem-solving method of SODASE. Situation, to identify that situation or goal, to identify all of the possible options you have, and work on it until you come up with 20 different options of achieving that goal. To list down what are all the disadvantages and advantages you have, and then finally to choose a solution. And if that solution works, great, but regularly evaluate if that solution is working. And if not, you have 19 other choices to fall back on.